Well, hello, Clutter Warrior, and welcome back to the show. I've got a very special guest for you today, and that is Amber De La Garza. Is that the best way to pronounce your name?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Excellent. So Amber is a productivity expert. So we're going to have some wonderful synergies, and we're also going to have some opportunity to explore how Amber moves through time and space as a busy and active entrepreneur running her own business, as a coach, as a speaker, and also as a mom living a life. So here in the Declutter Your Life world, we really like to look at whether we're talking to professional people or people who are stay-at-home parents, right? What we like to look at is how they move through time and space 360, because even if you do trade your time for money at a company that you don't own, ultimately how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's what I view as one of your 200 lies if you're thinking that, well, you know, my desk at work is clean, but my kitchen counters at home are a mess, or vice versa, right? Like the home is totally functional, but my office is a freak show. We want to be able to bring to, as they say, a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So we want to bring up your relationship to organization. And because of Amber's expertise, we also get to add the added bonus of looking at your productivity, because they are certainly intertwined, right? You can't be productive and be messy, and you can't be messy and be productive. So we want to be able to, again, share great suggestions for you, our listeners, so that you can maximize any time that you're spending decluttering, anytime you're spending trying to improve your productivity, you can get the most out of it as quickly as possible. So welcome to the show, Amber. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Yeah, cool. So tell us just a little bit about what your home life is like. Kids, pets, partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my husband, and we are celebrating 14 years of marriage, 25 years together.
So,
In about a week. Our son is 12 years old, and we have 2 dogs and a desert tortoise.
awesome. And house, apartment?
House. Yep. We live in Las Vegas. We have a house here. Yeah, been in the same house. I think this is relevant for this conversation, but I've been in the same house for 14 years as well. Sometimes when you're in a house a long time, you either clutter and reorganize. So that's something we can touch on.
Sure. So what kind of storage spaces do you have besides like the standard closets? Garage? I mean, you're in Vegas, so probably not a basement, right? But garage?
Yeah, usually people don't know that. Yeah, we have a garage. However, I get the entire house and my husband gets the garage. So nothing that is not his goes in the garage. And so that's a unique, organization challenge. You've got Christmas stuff, camping stuff, like literally from the time we have been adults together, he's like, give me the garage and I'll give you the rest of the house. So traditional things that would go in the garage don't go in our garage.
So you have to find space in the house for seasonal decorations and all of those kinds of things. So do you both go camping?
Yes.
So who's responsible for the camping equipment? Is that him or you?
Ice chests go out in the garage. The rest goes inside the house.
All right. Well, that was a good negotiation on his part. Definitely.
Yes, he's negotiated. He doesn't ask for much and gives me a lot of leeway. So that we actually have a niche upstairs at the top of the stairs. And really early on, we bought bifolding doors and created a closet space that was quite large. And that's where all our seasonal goes and camping.
Perfect. So tell me about that. So you move into the house 14 years ago. You're living together. You're newly married. You're combining stuff. You have this clever demarcation: garage for him, house for you, and so talk to me about the negotiations around that. I mean, how do you reach decisions? Because he still has to be able to access stuff, and I mean, it's not like It's not like you have to ask permission to go into the garage. It's just
No.
he has control over how it's laid out and how it's organized. So talk to me, but really to everybody, about how you two negotiate that so that, you know, the organizational triangle, one home for everything, like with like, something in, something out, is what we base all of our organizing principles on. So everything has one home.
Yep.
I don't care where that home is, but everything has a home. If it doesn't have a home, it probably isn't in your home. And like with like, all like objects live together. So when you're thinking about like the camping equipment that is in essence in your purview, or the seasonal decorations, whatever's going on in the garage is his, how do you determine where things are going to go, and how do you share responsibility for putting things back, given that things are so clearly defined?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is interview questions I have never discussed. So this is awesome. So the garage is his, and he is free to lay it out, organize it. Really, all of that is his. I am very blessed in the sense that I do not have to clean up after him. He is really organized. In fact, he just went through a 2-day purge in his garage recently without the request of me. However, on the home front, anything I say goes. So whatever organization, structure, the way our laundry is sorted, the way our spices are sorted is all something that I create the system, and he really just complies and follows with no complaints. But you won't find him organizing anything inside the house. It's just not his thing.
Got it. And so, and then how does that affect your child, your son, in him navigating the two spaces and making sure that things that belong to dad get back to dad land, things that belong to mom get back to mom land, they go, and so he in essence is navigating two hopefully complementary but distinct systems for organization. So what's the experience like for him?
Yeah, my son is pretty organized in general for the common areas. He is a 12-year-old boy, so I've been giving him more flexibility in his own bedroom and giving him his own domain to do with what he wishes. But up until a few years ago, it wouldn't be uncommon that I go in there. I'm like, we are purging your room, we are organizing your room, we're setting, refreshing some of the systems. But surprisingly, this summer, my son spent the summer organizing all his Legos by color, and that wasn't even by me. So these are the things that I had hoped that, not that was needed, but he said, you know what, I want to build this huge giant thing, and I think I could be more effective if I organize them by color. And so he took this like multi-day project on himself. And I really think that was rooted from early on. We've just always had systems, whether it was from, where the food goes in the fridge, or where the snacks are, and where certain things are in the pantry, dishes. Like, we just have a system that I keep very simple for everything. And he's been trained that way. And honestly, my husband has too. So we run a pretty efficient house in that sense. So him navigating it is just like, everything has a home. It goes back to its home. It is considered to me, this is just a little bit of parenting, but we really prioritize character. And so if he's going to grab something and then just throw it down, like, the character is what we address. Is like, that's lazy. Go the extra step, where it goes, put it back where it belongs. It's also a respect conversation. If that's not your belonging and you grabbed it from dad's garage, then put it back where you got it so dad can find it, mom can find her things like that. So we really intertwine conversations around character along with not just the organization aspect.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Oh, he sounds like an amazing young man. So
his wife will thank me one day.
Yes, definitely. And be college roommates and everybody in between, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So not to mention that it'll probably be easier for him as school becomes hopefully increasingly more demanding of his attention and his time, that he'll have less distractions on the surface, right? I mean, the distractions of being an adolescent, technology, social, all of the things that come along with being a young person in the world today. Yeah. Those challenges are really enough for anybody to manage. clutter on top of it only becomes another obstacle. So it's great that he has a clear trajectory to meet adolescence and young adulthood with just the stuff that comes with being an adolescent and a young adult, and not needing to also navigate clutter on top of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting. We can learn a lot from what works for children, and sometimes we forget the same thing that works for children works for adults. So his room is full of toys, and that's, that I wouldn't say cluttered, but it's full of toys, which could be distractions. So he does his homework at the table. That's really no different than us as adults, wherever we work. If we are creating an environment that's full of distractions, it might not be ideal for us to show up our best. My son does better with noise in the background. For him, that's what works best for him. So him doing something with less physical clutter, but noise going on, like house noise in the background, is the best place for him to do his best work. I think that brings up a good conversation around like how do we show up our best to do our best work? What does our physical space need to look like? What is the noise clutter? Like sometimes that's clutter. For me, I like it really quiet. And so just being aware of the things that are pulling for our attention and distraction can come in all forms.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And my dad, when he would come home, the first thing he would do, this is long after my folks split up and he was living by himself. The first thing he would do is turn on the television. It felt like company to him, right? Even though obviously nobody was talking directly to him, it felt like somebody was in the space with him, and that soundtrack was helpful for him. For me, when I have to do deep work and I'm trying to concentrate on something, it has to be super quiet. I can't listen to music. I mean, I was a professional musician, so I get lost in music. It's not background like white noise. It's like I'm counting music, or I'm listening, or I'm someplace in the music. It's not a soundtrack. So I need quiet, and it's really important, I think, for the listeners to know that you get to, for each of us, we all get to determine what does that environment look like, from the physical setup to the, whatever sort of oral audio kind of background music is going on. All of those things are within your control, so that you shape the environment that allows you to be as productive as you can be and want to be. So that these things aren't physical obstacles to your productivity, right? I mean, it's so important that we take responsibility. I mean, I don't love that phrase, but I'm going to use it for shorthand here, right? That we assume a certain amount of responsibility for the environment, so that we are not deliberately tripping ourselves up consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah, I actually have a great example of this. I think that when you're saying responsibility, I think that I agree with you. And the first step is to just be aware that we're all so unique, and so exploring and experimenting with what works. Because then once you do that, you can articulate that, whether it's to your boss or to your, kids or people that are in your home when you're doing work. You can't articulate and ask for something until you know what's going to work for you. I used to work in corporate before I started my business 12 years ago, and I was in management. And so just like any good corporate office in management, I had an office that the door was always open, cubicles outside of my office. And so there was a lot of hustle and bustle and noise and people walking by. And when I started my business, I had a home office that has a door, it's a room, and it has a window to our front yard. And I just thought the lighting was amazing. I was going to do this amazing work, and I sit down at my desk, and I thought, I got rid of all that noise and distraction. Like, this is going to be amazing. And I sat down and I found myself cursing at the birds that were landing on the tree. Like, they were so distracting. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, why would that bird distract me when I came from a place that had so much white noise? And the reason was because it was so quiet here. When the bird would sit outside my window and start chirping, I was staring at the bird like I couldn't get work done. And I was like, that's really weird. And I just started observing, like, oh, like the cars driving by and my peripheral were distracting now. I had trained myself to do work in white space noise or white noise. But then when I got so quiet, everything was distracting. So I thought, let's just see. So this is before they had soundtracks. I just explored, and I would work from the corner of a cafe the first year and a half of my business. And I loved it. But I was trying to replicate what I had already trained myself to work in. And that was 12 years ago, but now you can get soundtracks that replicate a coffee shop, right?
Sure.
But before I thought this is so weird and I judged it. And I think that the message I want to get here is to explore, and it can change over time. And if you don't judge it and lean into it, you can do your best work, and find these pockets of time where you're being your most productive self, because you've identified either physical clutter or audio clutter, like the noise around you of the things that either are setting you up for success or distracting you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And we're big on no judgment here. So this is,
Yeah.
it's important. You can never say it too much, right? Because I think when we are self-talking, we will often consciously or unconsciously go to a place where we are talking crap to ourselves and beating up on ourselves, and not often even aware of it. We're just, we are habitualized to talk to ourselves in the way we would never let somebody else talk to us. And we would also really be upset if we were talking to somebody else that way and they called us on it. We would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. That's so
That's
not
so
who I
true.
am, right?
Yeah.
But the little constant conversation that we're having, and we talk often here in the Declutter Your Life world, right, about the 200 lies that the average adult tells. And so many of those are self-talk around, you're stupid, you should be better, you should be able to figure this out, what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Often they are surprisingly open-ended, like snarky comments or questions that don't have an answer. They're somewhat rhetorical, right? Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you. You have not sat still long enough to come up with a good solution or a workable solution for you yet.
Yeah.
That's the
I
only
mean,
thing that's wrong with the equation, right? There's nothing fundamentally wrong with you that you can't figure this out. You've never tried before.
right, right. Or maybe you did try and you failed. And so that just like affirms this negative loop
Right.
story. And that's the mindset clutter that can stop us in our tracks. And it also stops us from asking for help or trying again. And I think that if you can, see it differently, or see it how, if I told my son to go, organize his room, if I told him to organize his Legos and he got stuck, he didn't have enough containers, or he didn't know, like, should I do it by color or should I do it by shape? Like, I wouldn't judge him. I would go in and lend help, right? So how we would talk to others, well, maybe that's what felt overwhelming to you and what you were telling yourself. I don't know where to start. I don't know what the right way is. I don't know. Well, all of that kind of stuff is, maybe you ask for help or you listen to this podcast, but you rewrite that story and you just start somewhere, I think is the best momentum and gift we can give ourselves.
Yeah. So how do why don't you share some tips with us about how you reset your mindset? If you find yourself going down the rabbit hole or talking crap to yourself, what do you do to pull yourself out and refocus yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think first I would start to say that I don't think we ever stop. I think it just gets less frequent. And so when I do it, I don't say I shouldn't be doing it. I become the observer. This was something that was taught to me that was life changing, was that we don't need to be our thoughts, and our thoughts aren't always true. And so if you can kind of take this like idea of that you're like hovering over yourself, observing yourself thinking these thoughts, can you be like, oh, that's interesting? And then I question it, like, very stubbornly, like, is that true? Where did that come from? Like, why am I thinking that? And then I access a different truth that is very similar. And so I won't say something like, I, you know, everything feels disorganized. Like, that might be, if you keep saying that, you're not really going to start anywhere. And I'll be like, okay, so where am I organized? Oh, that pantry looks good. Maybe the counters are a mess today and the dishes and this and that. But can I find something that's truth? And then find the positive proof that gives me the positive momentum to start somewhere else. What's the next little project or thing? That's just like an example of where we tend to speak in absolutes and we tend to speak in generalizations. And so if we can be more specific and find a positive that is true and focus on that, that generally helps me unlock momentum.
That is awesome. Yeah. We talk often here about That's definitely one of your 200 lies, right? Few things are all or nothing. So if you find yourself speaking in absolutes, it's a easy way to catch yourself and go, oh, probably not. I haven't
Yeah.
tried everything. I've tried everything that I could think of, but I haven't tried everything yet. There's
Yeah.
probably something that I haven't thought of or that I haven't learned or been exposed to that could also go in the toolkit.
Yeah.
I don't know it yet. So
I find that in my work as well. And I actually focus on the things that are working. My clients come to me, their business may be, disorganized, overwhelming, their lives. And it's my job to actually find the one thing that's working. And when I find that and point it out, it gives them the positive proof and some confidence. But there's also some telltale signs of like what processes or systems or organization works for them. And then how can you replicate that into another area of your business or life? And so I'm always starting with what works before I'm starting with what doesn't work, because there's a lot to be learned from ourselves and from, and then I get to learn about my clients. And so that just might be a good tip here is like, just find out what works for you.
mhm.
For me, it's like my fridge, right? Like life can be crazy for all of us. I'm generally an organized person. I get that, but like life can get crazy. And when life gets crazy, you will find me organizing my fridge. All is right in the world if everything has a place in my fridge and it's cleaned. And like maybe I figured that out in therapy, I'm not sure, but like for me it worked. But then the fridge is like, okay, I tackled that. It's like this box, it's everything's got a home. And then I take that win and that momentum and that feel good. And then I go tackle that big project that felt like an elephant, right? Whatever that was, I always start with the thing that gives me like an instant win, a quick win.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, we talk often here as well about you can either get a quick win or you can get a big win. Either
Oh,
you're going to get to the same place, right? So depending on how
I love that.
strong you feel in the day, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're feeling puny, go for a quick win because you'll
Mhm.
value stack those up. And if you're feeling fierce, like you're a big clutter warrior ready to take on the world, go to the scary, sad corner in the basement and take it on because you've got the fire. But if you don't have the fire, that corner is going to kick your butt and make you miserable. So clear the counter off,
I love
load the
that.
dishwasher. Yeah.
Nope, that's true. It's just like keep the momentum going. And um, you know, I reference something similar to with my clients. It's called I call it the teddy bear in the closet. And this could be not just physical space, but this could be anything, right? If you think about that, is that, when we were kids, your parents would come in and tell you it's just your teddy bear, it's your favorite teddy bear. But to the kid, it's like, it's got teeth and it's big and it's angry and it's coming out. And like our imaginations can get going. This is the mindset piece, right?
Yeah.
And so with my clients, it's kind of a code word. And I will say something like, is that a teddy bear that needs to be pulled out? Because by the time I hear the story or they've worked through it, I mean, this problem is huge, but is it? And so we pull the teddy bear out of the closet, we look at it for what it is, and then we can move through it and past it. Man, like projects around the house, organization, that could feel like a big, scary teddy bear. And sometimes you have to be reminded it was just your favorite teddy bear in the closet that you started telling stories about.
Yeah.
And so just pull it out, hit it head on, and then you get to move through it and past it.
That is awesome. I'm going to borrow that and share that with the greater community. I mean, certainly everybody who's listening got it, but
Yes.
I can see the value in, because we talk a lot about story here, right? And so it's a great metaphor to hold on to. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, how many times, right, for you do you see probably with your clients is that it's the story, it's the hesitation, it's the procrastination, and then the actual project took 2 hours.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really the fight, the work is the mindset. It's all in your head. If you can get through that, it gives you opportunity for options. You can ask for help, you can piece it out, you can partner, you can hit it head on. Like there's so many ways to go about it, but really it's such a feeling of getting stuck when we just stay in our heads about something, whether that is like the circle of shame, right? Like there's some, you don't want someone in your home to have help you, or it shouldn't have been this way, or you tried and it failed again. Look, it's happened to all of us. Like even the most organized systems break and they need a refresh. So I guess that's my encouragement is to get out of your head and move through that into action that feels so good on the other side.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up today, I definitely want to let everybody know how they can find you and listen to your podcast and get more information about your amazing work in the world. So let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my podcast is called Productivity Straight Talk. And over at anywhere you're listening to this episode, you can just search Productivity Straight Talk. You can find out more about me at amberdelagarza.com. I specialize in coaching and training for small business owners all around how to run your business more productively with processes and systems and the mindset work that we spoke about today.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. In closing, what would you like to leave the listeners with? Is there one last little tip or nugget of something you'd like to toss out their way?
I think that the thing that's coming up for me is to see it as an experiment. We spoke earlier about that, is that to experiment with what environment you need to show up your best. If you're best as a mom, as a contributor to your community, to your significant other, people you love, work, or even in your own business, is to experiment with what environment will support you best to do that.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. And so really to be able to experiment, again, one wants to return to one's mindset so that you feel like you can take a noble risk, and even if you fail, meaning that you don't get what you want or what you thought you wanted, it was still worth the effort. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amber, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back again real soon. Bye for now.